Welcome, Harrison Science teachers. I'm here to share with you Amplify Science, a core-based science program for grade preschool through 8th grade. Today we'll be focusing on grades 6 through 8. So my agenda is to cover the topics that are most important to you at your district. Of course, we meet the tech specs and I'll explain that, go through student engagement, the supports for both teachers and students, definitely representing students of all learning types, as well as our assessments and our professional development. So to begin with, we support the widest range of all tech environments. We integrate with all LMS and SIS systems. That includes everything from Clever to Canvas to Google Classroom, Schoology, and more. We can go one-to-one digital licensing, taking care of everything for you, and we've even developed advanced grade passback with most of our systems. So how are topics and phenomenon different? How do we want to engage our learners? So as a teacher, I taught many topics such as water cycle and body systems, but now we want to have a three-dimensional integration such as severe storms or a patient who's chronically tired, or why does Australia have the highest rate of skin cancer in the world? They definitely have sunscreen there, but it has to do with the light and energy hitting that continent. And so this phenomenon becomes meaningful and relevant to students. And this process is explored deeply through our problem-based deep dives. Every unit, students get a career role of a scientist or engineer, and they have to solve a phenomenal real-world problem and how that natural system works. This is an engaging three-dimensional storyline, and students get to feel like scientists and engineers every day in the classroom. The roles that students get to play are vast, everything from planetary geologists looking at the surface structures on Mars, microbiome researchers, all the way down to our medical school interns wrapped around an anchoring phenomenon. So students have to figure out, why is Elisa exhausted all the time as they explore cells and systems and how the body works? So why choose Amplify Science for grades 6 through 8? We are top rated by EdReports, so check out edreports.org and look for Amplify Science and you'll see how we are a high quality instructional material. But also we're phenomena based and we use 21st century tools and resources to engage students in ways we couldn't before. So with our technology, I'm going to go over to some of those technology tools. We call them SIMs, short for simulations. And so these are engaging factors which allow students to collect evidence in a way that we couldn't before. So here I am at my traits and reproduction simulation. You'll notice they're spiders. Students are going to be genetic researchers, and their goal is to breed these Darwin bark spiders to create a spider silk to replace a torn tendon in the human body. They meet a researcher in her lab. She's doing this real work. So I'm going to take Greg here and mate with Zora and create those reproductive cells. Students are given guided task or guided inquiry, as we call it, when they're working in simulations. And then there's this open-endedness for open inquiry. You'll see the mutate feature, which students love to mutate the spiders. I'm going to randomly fertilize them. I see my 4 offspring will appear, and they're going to look heavily like Zora. But then I can explore more by clicking the traits at the top. I can see Greg here was low and Zora was high for that trait. Along the bottom, all my offspring came out medium or low. Great, if that's what I want. If not, I can go back up into the upper right, reset, and breed different spiders. While I'm here in the upper right corner, you're going to notice there's the Espanol button. Our entire platform, both digital and in print, our entire program can be converted into Spanish with a click of a button, or print resources also reflect that. And I can go back to English. So we would license all students to have access to whatever language they need and those access for both. So then I can go a little bit deeper in my exploration. Let's click on Spider 2. Now I'm looking at the cell. How cool is that? And these proteins that are leaving the cell, those are responsible for the trait of silk flexibility. But watch when I change that trait at the top. The protein shape changed. I'm going to change it again to venom. So students can make that visual connection. The shape of the protein is determining the trait we see in the living creature. How amazing is that? Now the next simulation I'm going to show you comes from our engineering internships for Futura. So twice a year, students will be engaged in engineering internships, which are going to address all those science and engineering practices in an amazing way. So as you see here, we're in the Force and Motion engineering internship. And so students are going to get all their introductory materials. They're going to get a request for proposal, their budget. You'll notice down here it says after hours work. We changed the vernacular. Instead of homework, it's after hours work or deliverables for classwork. In day 2, they're going to design an egg drop model. So this is the egg drop like on steroids. It's amazing. The purpose of this drop experience is students are tasked with creating a pod that's going to be dropped out of a helicopter to deliver resources to an area that went through natural disasters. I can see here by day 4, we're going to introduce the supply drop tool. I've opened that supply drop tool here. Students will have researched these different components, and then they're going to be able to build out, based upon their budget, the items they want to choose. Now, I'm choosing items that are very inexpensive. Some groups will do that. They'll go through and choose inexpensive items, thinking they're going to save cost and get more pods out there. Now, as I do that, of course, they're going to research those different components, and I'm going to test this condition. I concede I was supposed to get maybe a watertight shelter and keep my cargo damage low. I didn't do so great. So students can then have these debates within their engineering teams, go back and redesign. Maybe they will spend that $1,000 on a large parachute and lower those impact forces and record that data and do at least 8 iterative tests until they get the optimal design that works best for the criteria they're trying to meet. There's no perfect answer, just like in real-world engineering. So the technology that's embedded in our program really allows students to understand science at a different level. We're also designed for true three-dimensional learning of new standards. I'll go into that a little bit, as well as our teacher planning and assessment tools that's going to make your life so easy with 3 easy steps and address the needs of all the learners in your classroom. So we're built for three-dimensional learning. We're not retrofitted. Many other programs on the market today had a pre-existing addition that they just maybe changed the name and tweaked it to try to fit in GSS. The difference is with Lawrence Hall of Science being our authorship team, they went to work when the new standards came out and built Amplify Science. So we're definitely developed for that purpose. So we're designed for this instructional shift in science education. We're going to weave a 3D approach that's very evident through every unit, chapter, and lesson. We're taking those core ideas of earth, life, physical, and now engineering and bringing in those 8 science and engineering practices where students are going to have these actions around scientific discourse, collecting evidence with data, and then the cross-cutting concepts. How do we connect things such as patterns, cause and effect, and we anchor that together with that anchoring phenomenon, such as our patient here, Elisa, who's chronically exhausted. What I'm showing you now is evidence from our 3-dimensional statements. These exist in the teacher guide, both print and digitally. You'll see here students are going to diagnose a patient and then engage in argumentation about an athlete's improved performance. And you can see the color-coded parts of the 3-dimensional learning. At a lesson level, these are very concise. In this case, students are going to create models around body systems. The objective here is beautiful, and it can be student-facing by just putting an I can at the top, which many of our users do. The goal is to have students progress through a unit and understand it. So the units are designed for an access point for all learners. We assume that students come in with very little foundational knowledge on these particular phenomenon. You're going to start by giving a pre-unit assessment. The beauty of these, if you give it digitally, it will auto-score the multiple choice for you, and then you'll have 2 written response questions that you can score quickly with a rubric. Now, these assessments are pre-made for you. You don't have to create anything. Once you get that data, you're going to find that most of your students are at progress build 0. So we're going to start very simple. This unit starts with just cells need molecules from the outside. Students know they have to breathe and eat. We're going to tap into that inherent knowledge. Then we go up to level 2. Systems work to deliver those molecules to the cells. At this point, you give another major assessment called the critical juncture assessment. We don't want to go further until we want to make sure we have this checkpoint. Give it digitally, and the students will be grouped for you based upon their responses into 3 different groups. The green group in this unit means I'm still down here at level 1. My blue group is at level 2. My purple group, man, they're getting it. They're at level 3. The beauty of the program is the next lesson that follows that assessment doesn't introduce new content. It either provides enrichment or scaffolded supports for those different groups. The lesson will look similar to all students. They're just going to have different supports built in. Now, if you're working in our print notebooks or our print resources, those are also color-coded to match. And of course, a teacher can always move placement of students based upon, maybe the student in here needs to really be in this group, and you can do that very easily. The goal is to make sure they can be ready for level 3, which is cells releasing energy for the body to function, cellular respiration. At the end, there's an end-of-unit assessment that allows you to then generate reports after each assessment. And you can see here in my pre-unit assessment, most of my students were at progress build 0, but over the course of those 3, you'll see a shift to the right, and you can even drill down on question analysis and export that data and help inform your instructional decisions. So our learning approach is very successful. We engage students with that real-world problem, such as our patient here, and we're going to collect evidence from multiple sources to increase that understanding. This allows us to hit different learning styles. This is the special ed accommodation built right into our platform. Do hands-on. We have material kits, get those materials out, collect evidence firsthand. Then scientific discourse kicks in. Now, middle schoolers like to talk about everything else but science, so we're going to support them by giving you 8 different discourse routines embedded at those talking points. You'll also have a vocabulary wall with our unit questions, chapter questions that they're going to refer to as they have those discussions. Then they're going to read. They're going to get evidence from the text. We implement active reading strategies and support so all learners can pull information from the text. I'm going to go to this article here digitally to show you those resources. So here I am in the article, and you'll notice right out the gate at the top, we have a speaker function. If I hit play,
cellular respiration. You may have heard the word.
An actor will read the text to the student. This will help all learners in understanding the content. As I go further down, you'll notice I've already made some annotations and notes over here on the side. So students are going to support their ideas by collecting evidence and saving it and hand it in for the teacher to see all the work they're doing. You have the option to underline, as you see here, highlight, drag over important words, highlight that as well. You'll also see there's key academic words such as carbon dioxide. I click on that, I get a bilingual definition, and then it closes with a checkbox that I have opened it. You'll also notice built-in accommodations with a visual, a short paragraph, a break, another paragraph, and a visual. So you'll see chunked amount of information as students work through and understanding the science literacy component. Once again, we have that accommodation built in down here at the bottom left. Here's my Espanol toggle, and now everything on the page gets converted, and that includes the audio that can play to the student. So gathering evidence from the text is very accessible for all students to really understand and collect secondhand information to add to that firsthand information they have gathered. So we do talk, we read, and then we write. You have the options to write in our print investigation notebook, which is a consumable that students would write their findings in, or directly into the digital platform. And you can assign with common LMS systems. I can assign to Google Classroom with my account, as you see here. We can also integrate that with the other LMSs. And then visualization is so important. Do talk, read, write, visualize. So we have simulations, multimedia, videos, digital tools that all enhance that depth of knowledge around the 5E model, which is the foundation that we know is very important in science. And the Lawrence Hall of Science, who authored our program, wanted to hit different learning styles and provide these multiple exposures to the ideas that they're being challenged with. And it keeps driving forward with that phenomenal storyline. Now, at the end of the unit, there's an evaluate piece. Evaluate, you saw we have the end of unit assessment, but we also have a performance task. We want students to complete this process and take what they learned and solve problems on their own. This is proving very effective. So let's say we diagnose our patient. We figure out her condition. Now let's challenge students to extend their thinking. In the last chapter, they're going to meet this athlete, Jordan Jones. He went from 35th place in cycling to first in a year. How did he increase his cellular respiration to make that happen? Students are going to prepare for a science seminar and more independently. And the 2 lessons before this, students are going to get articles on high altitude training in the mountains. What a perfect way to do that. They're going to read evidence cards that we provide. They're going to also look at his conditions of his training. Maybe he changed his diet. And then you're going to step back. We provide strategies for how to step back as a teacher to allow the scientific discourse to come alive, all around a claims, evidence, and reasoning framework. The success of this program is very important because we want to address the needs of all learners. And so we have data from users all across the United States. Grand Island, Nebraska implemented our program, and they did a KN implementation, and they state testing grades 4 and 8. And you can see here the numbers for special ed, English language learners, and those free and reduced lunch students had significant learning gap reduction within just 1 year of implementing our program. And so we have a program that speaks to the needs of all learners, special ed, English language, but also gifted students. And we know that representation and accurate portrayals are important so everyone knows they can do science. So a lot of research is out there recently showing that the deficit model actually harms students. And what is that deficit model? The deficit model was very common in the early 2000s, where we lower the expectations. We lower the lexile by taking out key words. We lower those. That actually harms our learners. Instead, Amplify uses what's called an asset model. We're going to tap in to what students can do, their talents, their interests, and their native skills. And so you're going to start with our launch unit, which is the first unit of the year, and build a scientific argumentation wall. This really cool place in the classroom where students are going to learn how to make claims, evaluate evidence, and provide student arguments, maybe based on their background. Once you complete this in the launch unit, that wall is then used in every subsequent unit that follows. All that changes is the phenomena and the investigation question that they're looking at. Representation is so important. So throughout our program, we include images and successful ways in which Native Americans, Black Americans, women scientists and engineers, Mexican American, other Latino groups, Asian American and Pacific Islanders are represented, as well as disabled people. Everyone can see themselves doing science, and it's reflected within Amplify. And the goal is to have equity inclusion rooted into the foundation. And so we have our gold standard research-backed do, talk, read, write, visualize approach. We actually have a research study done recently by WestEd during the pandemic looking at our 7th grade units that showed that this approach is very successful. We have a design for learning, universal design for learning built in, as well as those cultural and linguistically responsive teaching strategies that you can tap into at the lesson level. And the do, talk, read, write, visualize approach allows those multiple at-bats so students can get on base and then hit that home run. Now, each lesson has lesson-specific differentiation as well. So I mentioned we have that unit remediation built in at a checkpoint with an assessment, but what about the lessons? Lessons are going to provide supports for diverse learners. They're going to provide potential challenges that might happen in the lesson, strategies for my English learners, those who need more support, and those who need more challenge, those honor students. So each lesson will have a set of these for you to tap into as an educator. I'm going to go to one now. So I'm now going to enter lesson 1.1, Welcome to Medical School. So here I am at the lesson level. And, it's important for me to prepare for the teaching strategy. So I'm going to go right down here and look at my differentiation brief. And so here I see supports for diverse learners, any potential challenges in the lesson. Here's those supports for this lesson for my English language learners. You can see there's quite a few of those who need more support in general, and then those who need more challenge. What if I need resources in Spanish as a teacher? I can click down here in the bottom left. Here's my Espanol, and now my PowerPoint, my slideshows, all these resources are now in Spanish. I can go back to English as well. So you have those supports built into the lesson right at your fingertips. Now let's talk about the program components to teach with. There's a digital and print teacher guide. Once again, if I convert in the lesson to the Spanish resources, you'll see those supports in Spanish. Classroom slides, which is a clickable lesson plan. All the unit wall materials, vocabulary is also bilingual. It's ready to go right out of the kits for you. And speaking of kits, our hands-on material kits provide all the hands-on materials you need for a class size of 40 students. So getting that hands-on going, you're good to go up to 5 periods a day. So you're talking 200 students can use our material kits. Also, we have the option of a print notebook, as you see here with the articles, or the full digital environment to work in. Assessments are built for you. We start with that pre-unit assessment, that critical juncture. We also have self-assessments embedded through every chapter so students can express how their learning's going. And then we have built into the activity within a lesson these 3-dimensional multi-formative tasks called on-the-fly assessments. It tells you what to look for and then gives you guidance on the now what. What do I do if my students aren't getting this? These are important because they're based in the activity. If we as teachers can address the misconceptions at the activity level, then it's not going to develop as an issue later and show up on an assessment. So we're making those modifications when it matters most. We have an end of unit assessment with written explanations, multiple choice questions, and that performance task. But also we understand state exams are very important. So we have standard-based benchmark assessments built into our program. They are a separate app that you would access by clicking the benchmark assessment app. And they're designed to prepare students for the high-stakes tests with visual stimuli and multiple choice questions and performance tasks also. I mentioned our classroom slides, which are awesome to teach with. They're fully editable. They're available in Spanish, and they're also customizable in both PowerPoint and Google version. The beautiful thing is it includes everything. Like this slide here has the image of the text that they're going to read, embedded videos. And notice this slide says on-the-fly assessment, and right in the notes, there's my assessment so I can work quickly to address that with my students. So it's a clickable lesson plan, a fail-safe way to deliver the lesson, but also it's editable. So you can make it your own and customize it based upon your unique needs. And the goal is to shift the structure of learning onto the students, where students figure out, not just learn about these ideas and these phenomenon. And to help with that, we've also designed remote and hybrid learning supports. And you may say, you know what, we've got students in front of us now. These aren't important, but these are great resources I want to share with you, online and offline resources. Our most popular are instructional at-home videos. These are real Amplify Science teachers, actually not far from you. The teachers you're going to see in these videos are from our district in Denver, Colorado, that we have been with Amplify Science. They're going to teach the lesson. We're seeing now use for special ed and English language learning students watching these videos as well to get another at bat. You can leave it with a substitute teacher. All they have to do is press play. That teacher's going to direct the students what to do at those key points they have to do actions. Also, it's a great model. You can watch to see how a lesson's supposed to go. And then absent students, which it was designed for those students at home, can keep up with the class. We also created packets called at-home units that were designed for situations where technology wasn't available. We're now seeing these useful resources for students with limited digital access, but also with IEPs. These packets are full unit or individual lessons that you can print out in both English and Spanish, and so students can work with less technology if they don't have it. Every investigation, every experiment has a video as well. So if a student misses class, or you don't know how to set it up, or I need to play it for a special ed student, you have that ability right there, and the students in the video are going to perform the lab and share out their findings. These are all located in what's called our Program Hub, and our Program Hub has those resources so when teachers need to dip in and get them, they do so. Right next to that in our Program Hub, we have built-in on-demand professional development, tutorials for students and for teachers, everything you need there, and then those additional unit materials are things that we recommend checking out as you grow into the program for enrichment. I'm going to go to the Program Hub now to show you where that is located. Up here in the upper left, I like to call this our little navigation hamburger. I click on that, it's going to open up this window. Now you'll notice classroom language settings, which shows I have licensed my students for both Spanish and English, and they have the control to toggle. And you can always unlicense those as needed. Now I'm going to scroll down past our other curriculum offerings. You're going to see our simulation links, which are short links to the simulations that students will work with. And then you're going to see our benchmark assessments in green. Definitely check those out. You'll be able to download PDF versions of those. And then also our Science Program Hub. So the Science Program Hub looks like a little whiteboard. In addition to supporting teachers, we also know that there's other stakeholders involved in education, especially with a new program. We have a dedicated caregiver website and support line in both English and in Spanish. I've created tiny URLs there for you to explore those. I'm going to go to the one here in English that says Welcome Caregivers. So the beautiful thing about this caregiver website is we have information for back to school nights with video recordings, a next generation science standard letter, a navigation video for students to start exploring, simulations, videos about our simulations, resources for back to school night, family homework experiences. Now these are also in the teacher guides. They're going to be in your lessons and they're optional, but we also have access to them here. So let's say I'm in this Earth, Moon, and Sun unit where students are working with an astrophotographer to figure out the best times to take pictures of the lunar eclipses and lunar phases. Well, what's a better time for parents and families to go outside with their children and do the same? Document those things that they're seeing. So you see these awesome family integrations. And then further down, where to go for help. So we have a helpline for both families and for teachers. So this is our family support line, 800 number and email address. So they can help, our team can help your parents and your families as they transition to Amplify Science. Professional development is so important. We want to make sure you are very successful. So we are going to customize our plan with your district's needs. We recommend what's called a GLOW, a grade level orientation. So each grade level, 6th, 7th, and 8th, would be separate in their planning process. And then also do administrative and coaches orientation to our program. And then this is a sample from a 3-year plan. Starting with year 1, we start with a foundation series like I just mentioned. Then we have strengthening sessions that are customized based upon what you need. So you'll tell us, you know what, we need more work with our English language learners. Well, here we have a session for that. Accessing complex text, how can we help students with that? Or guided planning, we come in and work with you for your planning. After strengthening, we can go as far as coaching. We can send in people to do model lessons. They can work with you and teach a lesson with you, debrief. So we have a series of offerings with our professional learning to make sure your implementation is effective, not just with the first year, but throughout the course of the adoption. So why choose Amplify Science for grades 6 through 8? We are the top rated out there by Ed Reports. We take phenomena-based instruction really seriously with our 21st century tools and resources, addressing the needs of all learners in your classroom. We're designed for true 3-dimensional learning, and also teacher planning and assessment is super easy. The assessments are designed to make sure students are progressing through those progress builds and being effective learners at this new way of learning tied around phenomenon.